Way back, when I was just a wide-eyed toddler at my daycare somewhere in Mississippi, I wasn't just a blubbering, sputtering character. I was a teacher. You see, the first language spoken to me was Chinese. It was the default language uttered by the parents in my household, so I was somewhat of a spoken expert. Well, to whatever degree a teensy kid could be an expert at something, I was that. You see, at my daycare we had these books. I distinctly remember they were made up of a variation of cardboard to stop the drool and the slobber from permeating the pages and effectively ruining them. In these heavy, thick pages were some elements of life in their more rudimentary forms. Colors, objects, animals, even emotions. Though the emotions, they were a little devoid of complexity and limited to happy, sad, or angry. None of them were sufficient to describe little me as I translated those elements into their Chinese forms for my teachers and other kids. Car was Che, wind was Feng, and tiger, as I pointed my stubby finger to the cartoonish beast on the page, was Laohu. And so on and so forth. I taught everyone around me, anyone that would listen, and I was positively joyous. Chinese was what I knew, and I wanted nothing more than to share it with other people. Eventually, my daycare teachers told my parents about this, and they were so amused. This became one of those stories that they would tell relatives and friends over and over again until I could word for word replicate the 5 or so variations in which they would phrase it. And then I got a little older. As I was entering elementary school, we moved from Mississippi to Washington. I like to think that as that perpetual sunniness faded, so did my eagerness for speaking Chinese. As I progressed through my academic years, my language became less of a strength and more of a liability. I wouldn't be caught dead speaking Chinese at school. Whenever my parents came to pick me up and opted to speak Chinese to me instead of their broken English, it sounded so guttural, so shrill. I thought it was so out of place. And I wanted to fit in, so I always got irritated. Tiger was no longer Laohu anymore, it was just Tiger. But as time passed, things got a little complicated. I matured, and I started seeing the world for what it was. That ignorant naivety I had as a kid, it fell back and was replaced with an awareness. Through this new perception, I saw Asian stereotypes flourishing. I saw the many hate crimes happening around me. I saw that being Chinese was a little like wearing a target on your back. And so, I made a decision. I wanted to get more in touch with who I was, my blood. I researched more about Chinese culture. I became a more informed descendant of my own ancestry. And as my knowledge of Chinese history expanded, so did my respect. Their stories are rich and full of classical themes. The empires they had, the wars they fought paralleled that of the ancient, exalted Romans. Their inventions changed the world. Their music was unique. Their architecture was stunning. And their festivals were truly a sight to behold. It was enlightening. Now, I can't say I perfectly reconciled the American and the Asian within me. That would be a little disingenuous. Because of where I grew up and how I was raised, I will always be more American in my ideals and my habits. But I can say with an utmost conviction that I am in no way embarrassed of my ancestral heritage and their culture. That target on my back being Chinese, that's something I cradle. It's something I hold near and dear. It's important to me. It's my identity. That cute story of me being a miniature teacher won't be something only my parents hold the rights to. It's my story. And I'll tell it too. I'll tell it, beaming the very same way I was those many years ago at my daycare, eagerly flipping through those cardboard pages. Oh, I told him. Car was Che. I said wind, it was Feng. And tiger was Laohu.